Have you ever seen a 400-pound gorilla cry like a heartbroken toddler over a kitten? She didn't just grieve. She signed the word sad for days, refused to eat, and pressed her hands to her face like a grieving widow in a soap opera. But this wasn't just sadness. It was something deeper, something almost human. Most people assume gorillas are just big, hairy gym bros with anger issues. But then along came Coco, a gorilla who not only learned sign language, but also used it to tell us when she was sad, bored, or annoyed that her snack selection was subpar. And yes, she adopted a kitten, treated it like her baby, and when tragedy struck, she handled it with more emotional maturity than most adult humans. But Coco wasn't just an animal with a few party tricks. What she did, and how she did it, has scientists, philosophers, and the internet still scratching their heads. Because her story isn't just about grief, it's about love, language, loss, and a few surprisingly relatable gorilla meltdowns. On July 4th, 1971, while America was busy celebrating independence with fireworks and questionable potato salad, a baby gorilla was born at the San Francisco Zoo. Her name? Hanabi Ko. It means fireworks child in Japanese. But don't worry, we'll call her Coco, because apparently even gorillas can't escape the nickname curse. Nobody knew it yet, but this awkward, wide-eyed fuzzball would grow up to challenge everything we thought we knew about animal intelligence. That is, once she survived the first few miserable plot twists life had in store for her. Like many tragic heroes and Disney protagonists, Coco's childhood started with heartbreak. She got sick as a baby and had to be separated from her mom for treatment. When she was finally brought back, her mom took one look and basically said, "Who's this?" Yep, rejected. Straight into the gorilla version of foster care, with strangers who weren't exactly handing out warm hugs. But fate, as it tends to do in stories like this, had other plans. Because just 1 year later, a Stanford grad student named Penny Patterson entered the picture, and Coco's life would never be the same again. Penny's plan was simple: teach a gorilla how to talk using sign language. Everyone else's plan? Laugh at Penny and move on. At the time, gorillas were considered emotionally unavailable and intellectually, let's say, limited. Basically, the bouncers of the animal kingdom. And the training? Let's just say Coco was not in the mood for handholding. Literally, she didn't like being touched. So Penny did the next best thing. She showed, she repeated, she waited. And then, boom, Coco signed her first word, drink, one finger to the lips, a signal that would launch one of the strangest and most emotional friendships in scientific history. Once Coco got the hang of it, the signs started flying. By age 3, she knew about 200 words. Not just banana and hug either. We're talking full-on emotional statements. Show her a photo of a wet ape, she'd sign "I cry there." Show her a horse with a bit in its mouth, horse sad teeth. Yep, Coco had empathy. She also had opinions. Once she called herself a good bird who could fly, then paused, signed "not true," and cracked herself up. That's right, a gorilla who could lie for laughs. Penny wasn't just raising a genius, she was raising a sarcastic, emotionally complex, slightly dramatic queen. On her birthday in 1984, Coco made a very specific request. She wanted a cat. Not a banana, not a new tire swing, a kitten. So her caretakers brought her a box of stray kittens to choose from, as if she were picking out a handbag at a boutique. She carefully examined each one and chose a tiny gray kitten without a tail. She named him All Ball, and just like that, the 300-pound gorilla turned into a full-blown cat mom. She carried him around, hugged him, tried to nurse him, which, let's be honest, was probably terrifying for the kitten. But she was gentle, protective, devoted. It was weirdly beautiful. Until tragedy struck. One day, All Ball escaped from the enclosure. He was hit by a car. When Coco was told, she didn't throw things or scream. She sat still, completely silent, and then slowly, she began to make soft, guttural moaning sounds, the gorilla version of a sob. She signed sad, over and over again. She pressed her hands to her cheeks, the sign for sleep, and whispered, sleep cat. She didn't eat. She didn't play. She just signed sad like a broken record and stared into space like she'd lost a piece of herself, which honestly, she had. Coco didn't just memorize signs. She invented her own. She called rings finger bracelets, masks, eye hats, an empty cup, drink, no. In other words, she was casually inventing compound nouns like a toddler Shakespeare. And she wasn't just talking to humans. Coco used sign language with dolls, animals, even inanimate objects. When they didn't respond, she'd just keep signing anyway. Because apparently even gorillas know the pain of being left on red. She once called another gorilla dirty bad toilet after he messed with her doll. Not exactly Nobel Prize material, but honestly, a plus insult. One day a caregiver showed Coco a skeleton and asked, "Is this alive or dead?" Coco didn't hesitate. She signed, "Dead." Then came the follow-up. "Where do dead gorillas go?" Coco responded with three chilling words. "Comfortable hole. Bye." She signed it with the kind of casual finality you'd expect from a monk or a mob boss. No one really knew what to say, because how do you process a gorilla staring into the existential void and calmly describing a grave? This wasn't just mimicry. This was something else entirely. Something disturbingly human. In her final years, Coco wasn't just a gorilla with a vocabulary. She became an ambassador for animals, for empathy, for a planet most people treat like a rental car. At one point, she signed a message to humans. "Nature is watching you." That's it. No speech, no lecture, just 5 words that hit harder than a climate documentary and a guilty conscience combined. She died in her sleep on June 19th, 2018. But her message didn't, and maybe that's the strangest part of all. The clearest warning we've ever had about our relationship with nature came from a gorilla